Maxville Engine Clinic. Today we're going to be working on this Toro. It is a Z5030 and has a Kohler Courage 23 horse with a SV720 as the model number on this engine. But what we're going to be doing, the customer said, is that the unit was low on power, ran rough, and so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a carburetor job to this one. So we'll go ahead and get started. First we want to take the top off of this motor, and so we can get to the carburetor. And first I want to start with taking the fuel pump off, or actually we're just going to set it off to the side so it's out of the way. Now we'll just lay it aside for time being. Then we'll work on these bolts that hold the blower housing on. This is going to be a 5/16. Oh, got two more screws right here in front. These are 3/8. Now we can just simply lift this cover off and set it aside. Okay, and we're going to remove the air filter, get it out of the way, and then we're going to take the cover off right here that's in front of the carburetor. Before we can get it off, we have to first get that cover off. And there is a vent tube we need to remove right here. And these bolts right here are 10 millimeter. And then the nuts are still in the housing here, so we'll need to dump them out so we don't lose them. Now we're to our carburetor, and we have a few things we have to disconnect. One, we have the wire that runs the fuel solenoid. We want to unplug it. And then we have a ground wire right here. Let's take a Phillips screwdriver, remove it and set it aside. And and don't lose your screw, because these are small. I always install them back in the carburetor. Now then, we want to remove a fuel line, which is connected right here. It goes strictly into the carburetor from the fuel pump. And you can slide it out. As you can see, it's loose. But we got to disconnect our choke linkage and our throttle linkage before we can do that. And to do that, first I want to disconnect. Let's see if I can get you in here a little better. There's a, right here, is a little tab that locks that throttle shaft in here, and we just want to simply pop it loose, move it to the side. And we have a little tiny governor spring that we want to remove carefully because you can't easily bend it. And just get this connected from there. Then this will slide right out. Carefully remove the gasket. Try to avoid tearing it if you can. We'll set it aside for now. And then we can slide carburetor forward enough to remove the choke linkage. Okay, now we're loose. Now I'm going to set this over on the table and we'll start tearing it apart. Okay, we're back. I put the carburetor on the table with a cloth. Try to get you in here where you can see what I'm doing, so it's a little easier for you to see a little closer. But first, to get started, we're going to remove these 4 screws. And sometimes they can be a little bare to get loose every once in a while, so you're going to lose some gasoline. That's just going to happen. I like to lay the cloth out so when I take things apart, I don't have things flying everywhere, so I know exactly where they're all at. Okay, we have all of our screws that hold our bowl out, and we just want to gently remove the bowl. And the bowl don't look too bad. There's a little bit of debris in it, but we'll clean that out in just a moment. First, to get started though, I want to remove these jets. These jets can be sometimes relatively simple, sometimes they can be a bear to get out. Okay, we're back. Had to stop just for a brief moment, take care of a customer. And now we're going to get back into this carburetor. And this is our main jet. We're going to remove it first. And we want to inspect it, making sure there's no debris in it, because those tiny hole will get plugged up, or even if it's not totally plugged up, it can get some debris in it and not run right. So, and then we got the emulsion tube that is inside that we want to take out. There it is. Make sure those are super clean as well. I mean, before we go back together, I'm going to blow everything out, make sure it's all clean. And right ahead or under this rubber plug, kind of just rotate it, you can get it out, is a idle jet. Same thing with it. Let's take it out. And it's got a very, very tiny hole in it. In fact, it's almost so small you can't even hardly see through this jet. And we're going to blow it out as well. Now, our float here, we want to go ahead and check this out while we're here. Never hurts to check it, especially if you have a fuel leak problem. This is where your fuel leak would come from. Just simply take it out. Our needle jet's right here. We'll set it aside for time being, and we'll set the screw that goes with it over the side. Now, basically what you see here is the carburetor that's completely taken apart. Now I do have this top cover I need to remove. So we're going to check, make sure there's no debris in it. Again, a small amount of debris can cause these engines to run terrible. It doesn't take, even a micron of dirt can cause a problem with these engines. Don't take much. Okay, lift the cover aside, and you can see there's all these airways in through here, fuel passages. And another thing we want to do to remove is this is our low speed idle screw. Let's just go ahead and take it out. We can readjust it once it's back in the mower and fine tune it. And the reason I do that is because again, small amounts of dirt will get in these units and these carburetors and just not run right. Okay. Okay, I'm going to spray the bottom and the top, all the holes in every orifice. Let's blow them out. Same thing with the bottom side where the bowl is. Now then, we're basically ready to put back together. Okay, let's go ahead and start with the top cover and blow it off. Reinstall it. Okay, just snug them down. Now we'll go ahead and put our low idle screw back in. I just want to lightly blow it off. And again, we'll fine tune that once the machine is running again. A good initial setting is run it all the way down and back it off about 2 turns, and that gets you pretty close. And sometimes that's perfect setting. 1, 2. Okay, we're going to leave it there for now. We'll fine tune it once we get it back on the engine and running again. Okay, we're going to be going back together. I like to check the needle valve. It looks good and it don't hurt to blow it off. And be careful, you will blow this thing into oblivion, because they'll come off pretty easy. And you're looking for that needle valve all over your floor. And simply install it back in. Needle valve goes in first. And then we have our screw that holds down the little rod that it hinges on. Again, just snug it down. Now, make sure it operates freely. The valve, needle and float, needle and seat and float. Make sure they operate easily. One of the things I've done in the past to check to make sure the needle valve is working correctly is I like to put my mouth on where the fuel line comes in and pull a vacuum and stick your tongue to it. And if it holds vacuum, just within a few seconds, you'll know. If it holds vacuum, your needle and seat's good to go. If not, you may need to go back in there and clean it, or maybe even touch it up with a drill bit if necessary. And I will be making some videos, and when I run into some of these that need to be cleaned up, and in other words, in order to use a drill bit, you got to hand drill it. You don't want to use a power drill to clean them up with. You just want to use a drill with your hand and fingers. And again, we'll get into that in another video. But first, I like to go ahead and pull a vacuum on it, and I'll check it. Now, my tongue would stay on it, stick to it, so we know it's good to go. So now, we're going to reinstall our idle jet, and we'll blow it out with some carb cleaner. Blow it out with the air hose. And simply drop it in. It only goes into one place. It can't go in multiple places. So you can't make a mistake. And snug it. Don't forget, this rubber plug has got to go back in. You leave this out and this thing's going to run terrible. So you got to make sure that rubber plug is back in there. Sorry for the noise, the air compressor comes on. Now then, we'll do the same thing on this emulsion tube. We're going to blow some air through it. Okay. I turned it off so everybody can hear what I'm saying. Anyway, this emulsion tube, make sure it is super clean. If you have to take a wire brush to it to clean it, then clean it. It will not harm it. Just make sure it is just super clean. Reinstall it. The long part always goes into the carburetor first. This part is where your main jet sits. So drop it back in. Now our main jet, which we're going to check it out. Make sure you blow it well, and you can look at it in the light to see if you see light through it. You'll see a tiny hole, making sure there's no debris in there. And this one looks really clean. So we'll go ahead and put it back in. It's always best again to start it by hand. You don't want any cross threading. Snug it. Now, right here is our fuel solenoid. Always check that thing and make sure it is springing back and forth. When you push it down, it should pop right back up. Basically what you're simulating here is when you turn the key switch on, this fuel valve will pull down and allows fuel to come into the bottom of the carburetor. And then when you turn the key off, it pops back up to shut the fuel off so that it stops any kind of backfire. Basically what they call an backfire valve. I call them fuel solenoids because basically they do the same thing. And we want to make sure this is clean as well, and I'm going to put a little cleaner in here. And we're going to blow it out as well. Now then, make sure that is clean. Because if you leave something in there, you're just going to be tearing this carburetor back apart again to clean it again. So make sure that's super clean. Now, we're going to go ahead and install the bulb back on the carburetor. Again, there's only one way it can fit, so there's not multiple ways. At least not on these anyhow. Yeah, let's just basically just snug these down. If you get them too tight, then if you ever have to go back in here, it can be difficult to remove these things. But they need to be snug enough that it will not vibrate loose. And then I just kind of like to go around each one, double sure that they're tight. Okay, we're going to pause right there while I move you back to the mower. Okay, we're back. We're going to go ahead and install carburetor. Make sure you have a gasket on here to seal this up. I'm just going to kind of lightly knock any dirt that may be on it off. And we're going to reinstall it. First off, we want to start with the choke rod, getting it back, put that back onto the linkage. Then we'll slide the carburetor on. Make sure you get your green wire out of the way, you don't want it pinched. And then hook up your throttle linkage. And I dropped that little plastic holder. Try this again. When you're dealing with small parts, this happens. has to go back in first before you can install your throttle linkage. Okay, snapped into place. Now we have this small spring governor. Basically what this is a spring to keep the tension tight between the governor shaft, carburetor, and the governor itself. If you get slop in there, then you'll end up getting a surge problem. So that takes up any of the slop. Okay, we're going to reattach our ground wire. Don't forget this. Or your fill solenoid may not activate properly. And make sure you plug your fill solenoid back in. Well, it will not start without that being connected. Okay. Go ahead and hook our fuel line back up. Okay, fuel clamps hooked up. We're going to leave this other end off for now till I get the cover back on. Okay. Make sure your throttle shaft is working, your choke shaft's working, everything's free and moving, no binds nowhere, and we're ready to put our other cover back on. Sometimes lining this up can be a little chore. Okay. Do not forget to reinstall your vent tube. Okay. Now, we want to reinstall our 10mm bolts that came out of each one of these. And what I do typically is just put it on the end of the socket and then just feed it in there. Same thing with the next one. Snug it down. Okay, we are ready to reinstall the cover. Well, there's one thing I just messed up on. Take that cover back off. Make sure you get this gasket back on, which I just got busy and didn't put it back on. Reinstall it. Keeps dirt out. And then reinstall your cover. And before I do that, let's take those screws back out. Now, we're going to do the same thing again. Screw on the socket. Okay, now we're going to be ready to install blower housing back on. Back you up a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Install the screws. Always start them by hand. These are blower housing screws we're putting back in. One on each side, two on the front of the motor. Tighten them back up. Now, you also want to reinstall the fuel pump that we disconnected. Or basically just remove from the housing, blower housing. Again, we're getting into plastic. You don't torque these in, you just snug them up. Now, a fuel line to my carburetor. We'll reinstall. Now, everything's put back together. Things should run good. We'll go ahead and give it a try. Okay, unit's running great. We're done with this machine. If you would please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.